The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the alien sky with orange and purple light. In the middle of that light, a lone human walked slowly along a dusty road. His clothes were torn from travel, and his boots carried the marks of long miles. He did not know where he was heading, only that he needed shelter before night. The land was strange. Trees curved upward like spirals, and the wind carried the smell of burning metal mixed with sweet fruit. He had crossed many alien worlds before, but this place felt different to quiet. To watchful, at last, he saw a village ahead. Houses made of stone and wood circled a small square. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the sound of children playing reached his ears. But when he stepped closer, the laughter stopped. One by one, the villagers turned to look at him. Their eyes were wide, their bodies stiff. The human stopped at the edge of the square, feeling all the stares pressing down on him. He raised his hands slowly, as if to show peace, but no one answered. Whispers spread through the crowd. "A stranger," one voice said. "A human," another hissed. The people began to pull their children back, hiding them behind doors. Some women carried baskets of bread and fruit. They dropped them quickly and disappeared inside their homes. Only a few men stayed, holding tools like they were ready to defend themselves. The human swallowed hard. He had seen fear before, but this was different. This was not fear of danger, was fear of him. The silence broke suddenly. From the far side of the square, a young alien girl rushed forward. Her skin shimmered like polished stone, and her dark eyes burned with fire. She looked no older than 15, but her voice carried across the square with surprising strength. She was pulling someone behind her, a tall woman with scars across her arms and a face both strong and tired. The woman wore a simple apron covered in flour, yet her hands looked like they once held weapons instead of bread. The girl dragged her mother into the center of the square and pointed at the human. Her voice rang out like a challenge. "Please, marry her?" The human blinked. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. The villagers gasped. Some covered their mouths. Others shook their heads, whispering in shock. But the girl did not stop. She pushed her mother forward and shouted again. Louder this time, "She bakes bread and kills foes, please marry her." The mother's eyes lowered in shame, but the girl's gaze burned straight into the human soul. He took a step back, confused, and the crowd pressed closer, waiting for his answer. His heart pounded in his chest. Marriage. To an alien woman he had never met. Why was this girl asking such a thing? The village chief, an old man with a cane, stepped forward. His voice trembled as he spoke. "Child, stop this madness." But the girl shook her head fiercely. "No, he is human. That is what makes him perfect. No alien man dares. No alien man is brave enough. Only a human can save her." The mother finally spoke, her voice low but steady. "Daughter, enough." But her eyes deep, glowing faintly like embers in the dark, rested on the human, watching, testing. Waiting. The traveler felt trapped between fear and curiosity. He wanted to run, but something in those glowing eyes held him still. He looked at the villagers. They seemed afraid not of him now, but of the woman standing beside her daughter. Some muttered she should not have returned. Others whispered, "The cursed warrior." The human's throat went dry. Who was this woman? Why did her daughter offer her so boldly, like a prize, to a man she had never met? Before he could ask, the girl raised her voice again. "He will protect her. He will protect us." The human shook his head slowly. "I do not understand." His voice sounded weak even to his own ears. The girl stepped closer, her face full of desperate hope. "You don't need to understand. Just say yes, please, before it's too late." A cold wind passed through the square, rattling the wooden signs on the houses. The villagers looked to the hills beyond. In the distance, a horn sounded a deep, heavy call that rolled across the land like thunder. The old chief gripped his cane tighter. "They are coming," he whispered. The girl turned sharply, eyes wide with fear. She grabbed her mother's hand and then looked back at the human with urgent fire. "Now do you see? If you do not take her hand, none of us will survive." The human's heart raced. The sky grew darker, the horn echoed again, and the eyes of the villagers filled with dread. The girl's words still rang in his ears. "She bakes bread and kills foes. Please marry her." He did not know if this was a request, a demand, or a trap. But deep inside, he felt the truth something dangerous was coming. And somehow, he was already part of it. The horn faded into the distance, but its echo remained in every heart. The villagers pulled back, whispering and trembling, while the human stood frozen in the middle of the square. He looked at the girl, then at her mother. Questions burned inside him, but none escaped his lips. He only saw the truth in the villagers' eye-sphere, not of him, but of the woman standing beside the girl. The old chief broke the silence. His cane struck the stone ground as he spoke, his voice shaking with both age and anger. "Why bring her here, child? Why drag this cursed woman into our square?" The girl raised her chin proudly. "Because you are all cowards. You fear her, but you need her. And now, only a human can stand by her side." The human felt the villagers' eyes shift toward him again. Their stares were heavy, filled with suspicion and blame. He raised his hands, trying to defend himself. "I don't know her. I don't know what this means." The girl's mother finally spoke. Her voice was low, calm, but carried a weight that silenced the crowd. "You are right. You don't know me. But they do." She turned slowly, her gaze sweeping across the villagers. Some lowered their eyes. Others clenched their jaws. They remember. The human frowned. Remember what? No one answered. The silence was heavier than the horn's echo. Finally, the girl spoke, her tone softer now. "He should know, Mother. If you expect him to stay, he must know." The mother closed her eyes for a moment, as if fighting with old memories she wished to bury. When she opened them again, they glowed faintly, like dying coals. She looked at the human and began her tale. Long ago, before this village grew fat and quiet, before the land knew peace, enemies came. Monsters in armor, with claws sharper than blades. They burned our homes, they stole our food, they hunted our people. Many ran. Many died. But I did not run. The villagers stirred uneasily, but no one dared interrupt her. I fought them. Day after day, night after night, I fought with steel in my hands and fire in my heart. My blade cut their armor, my rage burned their courage. They called me a demon, a cursed warrior. And perhaps I was. I killed and killed, until even death itself grew tired of me. The human's eyes widened. He looked at her scarred arms, at her strong shoulders, and he believed every word. This was no simple baker. This was a woman who had walked through fire and survived. The mother's voice softened, almost breaking. But war leaves scars. Not only on the body, but on the soul. When the fighting ended, I put down my sword. I swore never to take it up again. I baked bread instead to feed the hungry, to build, not destroy. She looked down at her flour-stained apron, her hands trembling slightly. But they never forgave me. To them, I was a weapon they feared, not a woman who bled. The villagers muttered, some with shame, some with anger. The humans saw it clearly. Now their fear was not of what she might do, but of what she had already done. The girl stepped forward quickly, as if to shield her mother from their judgment. She saved them all. Without her, none of you would even be alive. Yet you whisper curse behind her back. You eat her bread, but you spit on her name. Her voice shook with fury. "That is why I offered her to him. A human is not poisoned by your cowardice. A human will see her true worth." The human's chest tightened. He wanted to speak, but no words came. The mother's story was heavy, full of blood and sorrow. He felt her pain as if it belonged to him. But still, the question remained, why him? Why marriage? As if reading his thoughts, the mother met his gaze again. Her glowing eyes seemed older than time itself. "You wonder why, stranger? It is because my enemies are not gone. They have only slept, waiting for the day I am weak. That horn you heard, it was not for you. It was for me. They come to claim what I still guard." The human frowned. "Guard, what do you mean?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. She would not answer. Not yet. Instead, the girl whispered fiercely, "They fear her power. If she dies alone, it dies with her. That is why you matter. That is why I beg you take her hand before it's too late." The mother's expression hardened. "Enough, daughter. Do not drag him into this." But it was already too late. The human felt the weight of every eye in the village, the pull of destiny in the horn's echo, and the burning hope in the girl's words. The chief shook his head slowly. If he stays, he shares her fate. And her enemies are not merciful. The human's breath grew shallow. He looked again at the mother, the warrior turned baker, her apron dusted with flour, her scars telling stories of war. Could he walk away now, knowing what hunted her? Before he could answer, the horn sounded again, closer this time, louder, full of promise and doom. The villagers gasped and fled to their homes. The square emptied, leaving only the human, the girl, and her mother standing in the growing shadow of fear. The girl's eyes locked onto his, filled with desperate fire. Now you know her past. The question is, will you share her future? The horn's echo rolled across the hills, and with it came the sound of marching feet. The square was empty now. Doors were shut, windows closed, and only shadows watched from behind cracks in the walls. The horn's call still echoed in the traveler's chest as he stood alone with the alien girl and her mother. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the faint sound of boots marching somewhere beyond the hills. The human shifted his weight uneasily. His hand touched the hilt of his worn knife, the only weapon he carried. He was used to danger bandits, beasts, and hunger, but this was different. This was not his fight. This was not his world. And yet, the girl looked at him as if he were her only hope. "You cannot run," she said firmly, her small fists clenched. "If you leave, they will kill her. And if she dies, they will come for the rest of us. You are human. You must stand with her." The traveler shook his head, his voice sharp. "Why me? Why not your own people? You have warriors. You have men stronger than me." The girl's eyes flared with anger. Stronger, perhaps, but braver. No, they fear her more than they fear her enemies. They whisper curse because they cannot bear her strength. They want her gone, dead, forgotten. The human looked at the mother. She stood silent, her flour-stained apron a strange contrast to the deep scars carved into her arms. Her face was unreadable, her glowing eyes watching him as though weighing his soul. "I never asked this of you," she said quietly, her voice calm but heavy. "My daughter speaks from fear. You are a stranger. You owe us nothing. Leave if you wish." Her words should have freed him. They should have loosened the knot of dread in his chest. But they did not. If anything, her calmness chained him tighter. He could not look at those scars and those tired eyes without feeling the weight of her story. The human spoke softly. "You said your enemies come for what you guard. What is it?" The mother looked away, refusing to answer. The girl stepped in quickly, her voice sharp with urgency. A power, a secret. Too great to die, too dangerous to live without protection. If she dies unmarried, it dies too. That is why you must take her hand. The human froze. Marry her? He had thought it was a desperate joke, a wild cry from a frightened child. But now he saw the fire in her eyes. She was serious. I cannot, he said firmly. I am no hero. I am just a man trying to survive. Marriage is not a shield. It will not stop soldiers or monsters. The girl stepped closer, her voice breaking. You don't understand. Marriage is not just a bond, here it is power. It binds life to life. If you take her hand, you take her burden. And if you share her burden, her enemies cannot claim her so easily. Together, you might survive. Alone, she will fall. The human's mind spun. He thought of all the battles he had avoided, all the wars he had walked away from. He had lived by staying out of fights that were not his own. And yet, here he was, standing in the middle of a foreign village, being asked to fight for a woman he had just met. The mother spoke again, her tone steady but soft. Daughter, enough. He owes us nothing. If he walks away, let him. I have faced death before. I can face it again. But the girl shook her head fiercely, tears shining in her eyes. No, you gave your life to protect them, and they turned their backs on you. I will not watch you walk into death alone. If they will not stand with you, then let him. Let him be the one. The human felt her desperation strike deep inside him. He wanted to say no. He wanted to leave. But his legs would not move. His heart pounded and his throat was dry. Before he could answer, the old chief's voice echoed from the shadows. Human. The traveler turned. The chief stood in the doorway of a house, his cane gripped tightly. His eyes were hard. If you stay, you take her curse. Her enemies will be yours. You will not sleep without fear. You will not eat without looking over your shoulder. You will never be free again. Do you understand? The human swallowed. He nodded slowly. The chief's voice grew colder. Then hear this also: if you take her hand, you may gain more than enemies. Her strength may become yours. But strength always comes with a price. The human's chest tightened. He looked once more at the mother. She stood silent, her glowing eyes fixed on him, as if waiting to see the man beneath his fear. The horn sounded again, louder now, closer. Dust rose on the horizon, and the faint glimmer of armor caught the dying light of the sun. The girl gripped his arm, her voice trembling. You have no time left. Choose now: stand with her, or run and let us die. The human's breath came fast. His knife felt small in his hand. His legs screamed to flee, but his heart whispered another truth. He looked at the mother, at her scars, her silence, her strength. He looked at the girl, her fire, her tears, her faith in him, and as the first shadow of the enemy army crept over the hills, the human realized he had no choice left at all. Asterisk, the sound of marching grew heavier, like 1,000 drums shaking the earth. Dust rose from the hills, thick and choking, as shadows stretched across the village square. The human stood frozen between the alien girl and her mother, his hand gripping the small knife at his belt. The villagers stayed hidden behind their doors, but the crack of every window shutter revealed wide, fearful eyes watching. The horn sounded again. This time, it was not distant. It was near. It was here figures appeared on the ridge above the village. At first, they looked like dark statues standing against the fading sun. But as they descended, their forms became clear. Tall creatures in black armor, their helmets shaped like snarling beasts. Their weapons glowed with faint blue fire, and their steps were perfectly in rhythm. Like one body with many legs, The girl gasped and clutched her mother's arm. "It's them," she whispered. The mother's face remained calm, though her eyes glowed brighter. She took one step forward, standing tall in the middle of the square. The human noticed how her hand trembled for only a moment before she clenched it into a fist. She was ready. The armored warriors reached the edge of the square and stopped as one. Their leader stepped forward, taller than the rest, his armor etched with silver marks. His voice boomed through the helmet, deep and cold. "Give her to us." The villagers shivered inside their homes. Some whispered prayers. Others shut their windows completely, not daring to look. The mother raised her chin. "I am still here. Come and take me if you dare." The leader's helmet turned slowly, his glowing eyes falling on the human. "And who is this?" His voice dripped with mockery. "A stranger? A pet? Or a fool who does not know the weight of the chains he touches?" The human's chest tightened, but he said nothing. His knife felt useless in his hand. The girl stepped forward bravely. "He is with us," she shouted. "He is with her." The leader let out a low, cruel laugh. "Then he dies with her." He raised his arm, and the soldiers moved like shadows, spreading across the square with their weapons ready. The human's breath quickened. He wanted to run, to vanish into the forest, but the girl's small hand clutched his arm tightly. "Don't," she whispered. "If you run, they will kill her. They will kill me. Stay." The mother stepped in front of them, shielding them both. She grabbed a heavy iron rod leaning against the well. It was no sword, but in her scarred hands, it became a weapon. "Leave the village," she commanded. Her voice was sharp as steel. "This fight is between you and me." But the leader shook his head slowly. "No, it is between us all. You took what was ours long ago, and now you hide behind bread and stone walls. But you cannot hide forever." The human's mind raced. What did she take? Why do they want her so badly? The soldiers advanced. Their boots slammed the stone ground. The leader pointed at the human. "He stands with her. Then he will die first." Before the order was even finished, two armored warriors lunged. Their glowing blades cut the air toward the human. Instinct took over. He dodged the first strike, his knife flashing weakly against their armor. The second blow would have ended him, but the mother moved faster, with a roar. She swung the iron rod and smashed it against the soldier's helmet. Sparks flew. The soldier fell back with a crack in his armor. The second soldier swung again, but she blocked the blow with her rod, her arms trembling with the force. The ground shook under the clash. The villagers gasped from behind their doors. Some dared to peek. They saw the warrior they once called cursed, now standing between them and death once again. The humans stumbled back, heart racing, but the girl's voice cut through the fear. "Fight! If you don't fight, we all die." His knife felt small, but his courage grew. He lunged forward, slashing at a soldier's leg where the armor was weaker. The creature hissed and staggered, surprised that a human dared strike. The leader growled, his voice echoing like thunder. "So the pet bites." The mother stood tall, blood on her hands, fire in her eyes. "I told you. Come and take me if you dare." The soldiers circled, weapons raised. The human felt the weight of death pressing close, but in that moment, he saw something he had never seen before. The girl smiling, her eyes shining with fierce hope. "See?" she cried. "He is strong enough for her." The human's chest heaved with fear and rage, but for the first time, he felt something else too. He felt like he belonged to this fight. The leader lowered his hand slowly, his voice dark and certain. "This is only the beginning. We will return with fire and death. You cannot hide from us forever." With a signal, the soldiers pulled back. They did not retreat like cowards. They withdrew like hunters, leaving the prey to squirm before the final strike. The horns sounded once more, echoing into the night as they vanished into the hills. The square was left broken and silent. The mother dropped the iron rod, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The human stood beside her, knife still in hand, sweat dripping down his face. The girl looked between them, her voice trembling with both fear and triumph. "Now do you see? You cannot run. You are one of us now." The human stared into the dark hills where the soldiers had gone. His heart still pounded. He knew she was right. The enemy would return, stronger, and when they did, he would no longer be a stranger caught in their storm. He would already be a part of it. The village square was quiet again, but it was not peace. The ground was cracked from heavy boots, and drops of dark blood stained the stones. The horn's echo lingered in the wind, a reminder that the enemy would return. The human stood with his knife still in hand, his breath ragged. He had survived, but only because the woman beside him, the warrior with flower on her apron, had fought like a storm. The girl's voice broke the silence. "You see now. They will not stop. They will come again, stronger. If you run, they will hunt you. If you stay, you must fight with her." The human's hands shook. He looked down at the small cut he had made in the armored soldier's leg. A tiny wound against a giant enemy. And yet, that small act of defiance had changed something. The villagers had seen it. The girl had seen it. Even the mother had seen it. The mother bent to pick up the rod she had dropped. Her hands were steady, though her chest rose and fell with effort. "It has begun," she said softly. "They know now that I will not hide, and they know you stand with me." Her glowing eyes turned toward the human. "That makes you their enemy as well." The weight of her words pressed heavy on him. He had spent his life avoiding such chains. He was a wanderer, moving from place to place, never staying, never belonging. But here, in this broken square, he felt the chains close around his wrist sand strangely. He did not resist. From the shadows, the villagers began to emerge. Their faces were pale, their bodies trembling. They had seen the fight, and for the first time, they had seen the stranger fight beside her. Some looked at him with suspicion, others with faint hope. The old chief stepped forward, leaning on his cane. His voice was low. "You have chosen, human, whether you wish to or not. From this moment, her curse is yours." The human wanted to argue, but before he could speak, the girl ran to her mother and pulled at her apron. "Come, bake the bread." The human blinked, confused. "Bread? Now?" After blood had been spilled. The girl looked back at him with fierce eyes. "Bread is life. Bread is strength. She fights, and she feeds. That is who she is." Reluctantly, the human followed them into a small stone house near the edge of the square. Inside, the air smelled of warm dough and firewood. The mother moved quickly, her hands covered in flour as if battle had never happened. She kneaded the dough with strong, scarred arms, each strike against the table like a drumbeat of defiance. The human stared, unsettled. Her hands had crushed steel a moment ago, and now they shaped soft bread. She was both destroyer and nurturer. And he could not understand how one body carried such power as the bread baked in the clay oven. The girl whispered, "This is why they call her cursed. They fear her sword, but they fear her bread even more, because she gives both death and life. She is more than they can control." The mother placed the bread on the table, steam rising from its golden crust. She cut a piece and handed it to the human. "Eat." He hesitated, then took a bite. The bread was warm, soft, and rich with strength. It tasted like the earth itself, like survival, like hope. "Do you understand now?" the girl asked. The human swallowed hard. He did not answer. Before he could, the horn sounded again. This time, it was not one horn, it was many. The ground shook with the thunder of countless feet. The enemy had returned. The villagers screamed and scattered. Some ran to their homes. Others fled toward the forest. The chief shouted orders, but his voice was drowned by the rising roar of an approaching army. The mother wiped the flour from her hands and took the iron rod once more. But this time she handed the human a weapon to a short, curved blade hidden beneath the oven. "Use it," she said. He held it awkwardly, its weight strange in his hand. "I am no warrior." Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "You are now." The girl pulled at his sleeve, her voice urgent. "Stay with her. If you fight beside her, you will live. If you leave her, you will die." The human's heart pounded. He stepped outside with them into the square. The hills were alive with black-armored figures. Torches burned in the twilight, and the enemy's roar filled the night. They came like a wave crashing down, weapons raised high. The mother did not wait. She charged into the square, swinging her rod with the fury of a storm. Helmets cracked, armor split, and soldiers fell. Flour still dusted her apron, mixing with blood as she fought. The human hesitated for a heartbeat. Then the girl's cry pushed him forward. "Fight." He swung the curved blade clumsily at first, but the fire in his chest grew. He blocked a strike, then slashed at another soldier's arm. Blood spilled, hot and real. He felt fear, but also something else, strength. The villagers watched from their windows, wide-eyed. They had seen her fight before, but never with another at her side. Never with a human sharing her blood and bread. The battle raged. Bread and blood. Life and death. The human and the mother fought together, and for the first time, the enemies faltered. But the leader was not among them. Somewhere in the darkness, he watched, waiting. Planning. And as the last soldier fell in the square, his voice rang out from the hills, cold and terrible. "Enjoy your victory. Tomorrow I return with an army." The torches vanished, the night fell silent, and the square was left painted in red. The girl ran to the human and the mother, her face lit with fierce joy. "You see? Together you can fight them. Together you can win." The human dropped to his knees, exhausted, the blade heavy in his hand. He looked at the mother, her flour-stained apron soaked in blood, her glowing eyes burning with unbroken fire. He realized the girl was right. For the first time in his life, he had not run. And for the first time, he felt the dangerous pull of belonging. The village smelled of smoke and blood. Broken helmets lay scattered on the ground, and the square was painted red where the enemies had fallen. The human stood with the curved blade still in his hand, his arms trembling, his body aching. He had never fought like this before. He had never killed. Yet tonight, he had stood beside Hertha, cursed warrior, the baker. The mother and together, they had driven the enemy back. But victory did not bring peace. It brought silence, heavy and uneasy. The villagers peeked from their doors, their eyes wide with fear and something else, curiosity. They had seen what no one thought possible. The cursed woman had not fought alone. A human had fought with her. The girl's voice broke the silence. "You see now. He is the one. With him, you cannot fall." The mother placed the iron rod down carefully, her breathing heavy. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly, but the fire within them had not gone out. She turned to her daughter, her voice low. "Enough. Do not speak what should not be spoken." But the girl refused to be silent. She looked at the human, her voice sharp, desperate. "You deserve the truth. If you are to stand with her, you must know why they will never stop hunting her." The human's chest tightened. He had wanted answers since the first horn sounded, since the first enemy stepped into the square. Now, the promise of truth filled him with both fear and need. "Tell me," he said quietly. "Tell me why." The mother closed her eyes, her scarred hands gripping the edge of the table. For a moment, she looked like any tired woman, a baker after a long day. But when she spoke, her words carried the weight of war and secrets. "Long ago, I fought their armies," she began. "But I did not only fight. I took something from them, something they swore to guard with their lives. It was not gold. It was not land. It was power." The human frowned. Power. The girl stepped forward, her eyes burning. "A seed, not of earth, but of life itself. A seed that can grow into strength beyond measure. My mother carries it. It burns inside her still. That is why she bakes bread that tastes like hope. That is why her wounds heal when they should kill her. That is why her enemies call her cursed, because she carries their stolen seed." The human's heart pounded. He looked at the mother in disbelief. She stood silent, her glowing eyes watching him, as if waiting to see if he would recoil in fear like the villagers had. The girl's voice grew louder, sharper. "Do you see now? If she dies unmarried, the seed dies with her. It cannot pass to me, because I was not chosen. Only if she binds her life to another can it live on. That is why you matter. That is why I begged you. Without you, she dies, and with her, the seed is gone forever." The human staggered back, the blade heavy in his hand. He had thought this was about survival, about war and enemies. But now, he saw it was more. It was about something greater, something ancient. A seed of life itself. The mother finally spoke, her voice steady but full of sorrow. "Do not listen to her. This burden is mine alone. I took it, and I will carry it until the end. It is not your duty. You are free to leave." But her daughter shook her head fiercely, tears in her eyes. "No, you are not free. Not anymore. He has already fought for you. He has already bled with you. He is bound, whether he chooses it or not." The human's chest tightened. He looked at his hands, stained with blood, not his own. He remembered the villager's eyes, the chief's warning, the leader's promise of more war. He was bound already. She was right. Still, doubt gnawed at him. "Why me? I am only a man. There are others stronger, wiser, braver." The girl's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because you are human. You are outside their chains. You are not poisoned by their fear. The seed will not die inside you. It will live." The mother turned away, her voice breaking for the first time. "You ask too much of him." But the girl's eyes locked on his, fierce and unyielding. "I ask only this. Will you take her hand before the final storm comes? Or will you let the seed die with her?" The human could not answer. His mind swirled with fear, doubt, and something deeper destiny. He had never believed in fate. He had lived by his own choices, his own survival. Yet here he stood, caught in the web of a power older than himself. Before he could speak, the horn sounded again. Louder, closer. The night sky trembled with its call. And this time, the sound was not just from the hills. It came from every side. The enemy had returned not as hunters, but as an army. The mother lifted her iron rod once more. Her eyes blazed with fire, brighter than ever. "The time for choice is over," she said. "The storm has come." The human gripped the blade, his body shaking. He looked at the girl, at her desperate hope. He looked at the mother, at her scars and her fire. And he knew the truth, whether he wanted it or not. He was already part of her fight. The night was alive with fire. Torches burned on the hills, forming a circle around the village. Shadows stretched long and dark, and the sound of marching boots shook the ground like thunder. The human stood in the square, his curved blade slick with dried blood, his body weary but unbroken. Beside him stood the girl and her mother, the cursed warrior whose glowing eyes now burned brighter than the torches in the night. The villagers hid once more behind their doors, whispering prayers, trembling at the storm about to fall. Only the old chief stood in the open, leaning on his cane, his face pale but steady. He looked at the human and spoke softly. "Now is the moment. If you take her hand, you share her curse. If you refuse, she will fall alone, and so will we all." The human's chest tightened. His whole life he had run from chains. Yet now, a choice heavier than iron hung before him. The horn sounded again, louder, closer. From the darkness, the enemy emerged in army this time. Black-armored soldiers filled the square, their glowing weapons raised. At their front marched the silver-marked leader. His voice cut through the night like a blade. "Enough games. The seed is ours. Surrender the woman, or burn with her." The mother raised her chin, her iron rod gripped tightly. Her voice carried calm defiance. "You will not take it. Not while I breathe." The leader's gaze shifted to the human, his eyes glowing with cruel amusement. "And you, little wanderer, will you die for her curse? Or run, like all men do?" The human's hand shook on his blade. He wanted to run. Every part of him screamed to escape. But then he felt the girl's small hand clutching his sleeve. He looked into her eyes filled with fire, with desperate hope. And he looked at the mother, scars carved deep into her arms, fire glowing in her eyes, yet still standing tall. Ready to fight for them all, something inside him shifted. For the first time in his life, he did not think of survival. He thought of belonging. Slowly, he stepped toward the mother. The crowd gasped. Even the leader tilted his head, curious. The human lowered his blade and extended his hand. His voice was steady, though his heart thundered. "I will not run. Not tonight. Not ever. If you fall, I fall. If you fight, I fight. Take my hand." The girl cried out with joy, her eyes shining. The mother froze, her lips trembling as if caught between refusal and relief. But then, slowly, she placed her scarred hand into his. The square seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, the world itself was silent. Then the seed answered. A pulse of light burst from their joined hands, bright and fierce. The human gasped as fire shot through his veins. His body burned with power, not pain, but strength. His blade glowed, his heart thundered, and for the first time, he felt something greater than fear. He felt unstoppable. The leader snarled. "So it is true. The seed has found a host." He raised his weapon high. "Kill them both." The army surged forward like a black wave. The square shook with the clash of steel and fire. The mother swung her rod with fury, breaking armor and shattering helmets. The human moved beside her, his blade glowing with the seed's power, faster and stronger than he had ever been. Every strike cut deeper, every block sent sparks flying. The villagers watched from their windows in awe. For years they had whispered curse, but now they saw something else. They saw hope. The leader himself entered the battle, his silver-marked armor shining. He struck at the human with a blade of blue fire. The force nearly broke him, but the seed's power surged through his arms. He blocked, sparks exploding, and pushed back with a roar. The mother joined him, their strikes falling in rhythm, blade and rod, light and fire. Together, they forced the leader to his knees. His helmet cracked, his eyes burning with rage. "This is not the end," he hissed. "We will return. The seed cannot hide forever." With one final strike, the human and the mother drove him back. The leader fell, and his army scattered into the night. their horns fading into the distance. The square was silent again, but this time the silence was not fear. It was awe. The villagers stepped out slowly, staring at the human and the mother standing side by side, their hands still joined, their eyes burning with shared fire. The girl ran forward, tears streaming down her face. "I told you," she cried. "Together, you are stronger. Together, you are unstoppable." The old chief bowed his head. His voice trembled. Perhaps the curse was never hers. Perhaps it was our fear all along. The human looked at the mother, her scarred face softened by the glow of the seed's light. He had come as a stranger, a wanderer with nothing. But now, standing here, he felt the weight of something greater. Not chains, not curses, but belonging. The girl's voice rang clear in the night, carrying across the square, across the village, across the world itself. Now the galaxy will know he is not just human. He is one of us. The mother squeezed his hand gently, her glowing eyes meeting his. And for the first time, she smiled. The war was not over. The enemies would return. But tonight, in this village, hope had been reborn.